Picture it. Westfield, New Jersey, November 1971. A Tuesday morning in late autumn. The sky is low and gray, the color of old pewter, the kind of November sky that sits heavy over the flat New Jersey suburbs and makes everything look slightly smaller than it is. The trees are bare. The lawns are brown. The streets are empty in the particular way of weekday mornings, when everyone has already left for work and school, and the neighborhood belongs to nobody. On Hillside Avenue, a house stands apart from the others. Not in a dramatic way. Not in a way anyone would notice at first glance. It is simply the largest house on the street, a Victorian mansion, 3 stories tall, 19 rooms, its pale exterior rising from the brown November lawn, like something from another era. The kind of house that was built when money meant something different. The kind of house that takes everything a family has, just to heat in winter. Its name is Breeze Knoll. Inside Breeze Knoll, on the morning of November 9, 1971, something is happening. The lights are on in every room. Every light in the house, all 19 rooms, burning in the gray November morning. And from somewhere inside those lit rooms, faint but unmistakable through the pale walls of the Victorian mansion, comes the sound of Christian hymns playing on the intercom system. The music plays. The lights burn. The neighborhood goes about its Tuesday. Nobody looks twice at the house on Hillside Avenue. Nobody will look twice for almost a month. To understand what happened inside Breeze Knoll on November 9, 1971, you have to understand the man who lived there. The man who bought that enormous house with money he didn't have, who turned on every light and set the music playing, and then walked out the front door and disappeared. His name was John Emil List. John List was born in 1925 in Bay City, Michigan, a flat Midwestern city on the shore of Lake Huron, gray water and gray sky, and the particular gray ordinariness of mid-century American life. He grew up in the kind of household where religion was not decoration, but architecture. The Lutheran faith of his parents shaped every room of his childhood, every decision, every understanding of right and wrong and what God required of a man. He served in the Second World War and then in Korea. He came back with a degree in accounting, a quiet manner, and the rigid sense of order that military service can either build or reveal. He married a woman named Helen, a widow with a daughter from her first marriage, older than John by 10 years, a woman who would spend the rest of her life in declining health in the upstairs rooms of whatever house they lived in. He worked as an accountant. He moved his family from city to city as jobs came and went. He was precise. He was religious. He was, by every outward measure, a responsible man doing his best. By 1965, the List family had settled in Westfield, New Jersey, in the house on Hillside Avenue. John, Helen, Helen's mother Alma, and their 3 children, Patricia, 16 years old, John Frederick, called Fred 15, and Matthew, 13. 5 people and one enormous Victorian house that cost far more than John List's salary could support. The financial problems begin almost immediately. John List earns a reasonable salary at his bank job in New York. But Breeze Knoll devours money. The heating bills alone, for a 19-room Victorian mansion in New Jersey winters, are staggering. The maintenance, the taxes, the mortgage. John begins to fall behind, and then further behind, and then so far behind that the bank threatens foreclosure. He takes out a second mortgage, then a third. He borrows against his mother-in-law's savings. He begins, gradually, and then completely, to drown. He does not tell Helen. He does not tell anyone. He goes to his bank job in New York every morning and comes home every evening, and the family lives their life in the big house on Hillside Avenue while the debt accumulates in the dark, the way certain catastrophes do. Quietly, invisibly, until they can't. He loses his job in the spring of 1971. He does not tell Helen. He gets up every morning, puts on his suit, and commutes to New York, and sits in Penn Station for hours, or wanders the city, and comes home in the evening as if nothing has changed. For months, he maintains the performance. The family has no idea. By autumn of 1971, John List has reached the end of something. The money is gone. The house will be repossessed. His family is going to lose everything. The house, the life, the appearance of stability that he has spent his adult life constructing. He is going to be exposed as a failure, as a man who could not provide, as a fraud. He is also, he tells himself, worried about his children's souls. Patricia, 16, is interested in acting and the theater. Worldly pursuits, in John's understanding, pursuits that lead away from God. Fred is struggling in school, falling in with the wrong crowd. The family is drifting, in John's accounting of things, away from the Lutheran faith that should anchor them. He prays. He agonizes. He reads his Bible in the gray November evenings while the heating bills pile up and the foreclosure letters arrive. And he makes a decision. He decides that it is better for his family to die in a state of grace than to live through the humiliation and spiritual danger of what is coming. He decides, in the cold accountant's logic that has governed his entire life, that killing his family is an act of mercy, that he is sending them to God before the world can corrupt them or break them. He plans it the way he plans everything, methodically, precisely, on paper probably, in the neat columns of an accountant's ledger. November 9th, 1971, a Tuesday. The children leave for school in the gray morning. Fred to Westfield High School, Matthew to Roosevelt Junior High, Patricia to the same high school as her brother. John watches them go. Then he goes upstairs to the kitchen where Helen is having her morning coffee. He shoots her in the back of the head. Helen List dies in the kitchen of Breeze Knoll, her coffee cup still warm on the table, in the gray November morning light that comes through the kitchen windows and falls across the linoleum floor. Then John goes upstairs to the third floor, to the rooms where his mother-in-law Alma lives. Alma is 84 years old. She is sitting in her chair by the window, looking out at the bare November trees and the gray New Jersey sky. He shoots her too. Then he goes downstairs. He turns on the lights. Every light in the house, room by room, the 19 rooms of Breeze Knoll filling with yellow light against the gray autumn day. He turns on the intercom system and sets Christian hymns to play through every room. The music fills the empty house, hymns echoing through the rooms where Helen's body is cooling in the kitchen and Alma's body is cooling upstairs. Then he waits. The children come home from school. Patricia comes first. She is 16 years old, dark-haired, bright, interested in theater and music, the kind of teenager who fills a room with her energy. She comes through the front door into the warm light of the house and the sound of hymns on the intercom. Her father shoots her in the kitchen. Fred comes home next. He is 15. Then Matthew, 13. John List kills each of his children as they come through the door of the house on Hillside Avenue into the warm light and the sound of hymns, one by one. Then he does something that investigators will spend decades trying to fully comprehend. He drags the bodies of his wife and 3 children to the mansion's grand ballroom, a large room on the ground floor, high-ceilinged, its wooden floors pale in the yellow light. He lays them out in sleeping bags in a row on the ballroom floor. He places them carefully. He folds their hands. He leaves his mother-in-law upstairs. She is too heavy to move. He sits down at the kitchen table and he writes letters. One to his pastor, one to his own mother, and a long letter to his Lutheran minister, 5 pages, single-spaced, in his neat accountant's hand, explaining what he has done and why. He lists his reasons. He describes his financial situation. He explains his concern for his children's souls. He expresses the hope that God will forgive him and that his family is now safe in heaven. The letter is precise. It is organized. It reads like a business memo from a man who has done something he believes was entirely reasonable. Then John Emil List locks the front door of Breeze Knoll. He gets into his car. He drives away. He drives into a life that doesn't exist yet. A new name. A new city. A new beginning, somewhere far from New Jersey, where nobody knows what he did on a Tuesday in November. The bodies are not found for 28 days. 28 days of lights burning in every room of the mansion on Hillside Avenue. 28 days of Christian hymns playing on the intercom, until the record player finally wears out, sometime in early December, and the house falls silent. 28 days of mail piling up at the door, of neighbors noticing the lights, of Patricia's theater director wondering why she hasn't come to rehearsal. It is Patricia's theater director who finally calls the police. Something is wrong, she says. The family has disappeared. Officers arrive at Breeze Knoll on December 7, 1971. They enter the house and find it warm and bright and silent. They find the mail. They find the sleeping bags in the ballroom. Inside them, the bodies of Helen and Patricia and Fred and Matthew, preserved by the cold, because John had turned the heat down before he left, though he left the lights on. Upstairs, Alma. They find the letters on the kitchen table. John List is gone. His car is found at John F. Kennedy Airport, parked in a long-term lot, left there like a loose end deliberately tied. He has taken a bus, investigators will eventually determine, and vanished into America. The search begins, and goes nowhere. 18 years pass. The List case becomes one of the most famous unsolved murders in American history. The FBI lists John List as one of its 10 most wanted fugitives. His photograph appears in post offices and police stations. True crime writers cover the case. Nothing. John List, it turns out, is very good at being invisible. He changes his name to Robert P. Clark. He moves to Denver, Colorado, a city large enough to disappear into, far enough from New Jersey to feel safe. He finds work as an accountant, because accounting is what he knows, and he is good at it. He joins a Lutheran church. He volunteers. He becomes, in his new city and his new name, exactly the kind of quiet, responsible, religious man he always appeared to be. He meets a woman named Dolores. They marry. He does not tell her about Westfield. He does not tell her about Breeze Knoll. He does not tell her about the ballroom floor. He builds a new life with the same meticulous care he brought to the old one. Neat, quiet, organized. A man who goes to church on Sundays and pays his bills on time and waves to the neighbors. For 18 years, nobody finds him. Then, in 1989, a television show called America's Most Wanted airs a segment on the List case. It is not the first time the case has received media attention. But this time, something is different. A forensic sculptor named Frank Bender has created an age progression bust, a three-dimensional reconstruction of what John List would look like 18 years later, at the age of 63. Bender has studied photographs of List, studied his family history, studied what time does to a face. The bust is eerily precise. It even includes, based on Bender's research into List's family medical history, reading glasses. The segment airs on May 21, 1989. The phones at America's Most Wanted ring for days. One caller stands out. A woman in Virginia. She says she knows this man. She says his name is Robert Clark. She says he lives in Richmond, Virginia, where he works as an accountant and attends a Lutheran church and is, by all appearances, a perfectly normal retired gentleman. The FBI moved quickly. On June 1, 1989, federal agents arrest Robert P. Clark at his accounting office in Richmond, Virginia. He is 63 years old. He is wearing glasses, the same reading glasses that Frank Bender had sculpted onto the clay bust 18 months earlier. He denies being John List. His fingerprints confirm that he is. The trial of John List takes place in April 1990 in Union County, New Jersey. He is 64 years old. He sits in the courtroom in his suit and his glasses and answers questions in the precise, flat voice of a man explaining a business decision. He does not deny what he did. He explains it. He talks about his financial situation. He talks about his concern for his children's souls. He talks about God. The jury deliberates for 5 hours. They find him guilty on 5 counts of first-degree murder. The judge sentences him to 5 consecutive life terms. He is taken from the courtroom in handcuffs, a quiet man in glasses, and he never sees the outside of a prison again. John Emil List died in prison on March 21, 2008. He was 82 years old. He died of pneumonia in the prison hospital, in the same state where he killed his family 37 years earlier. He never expressed remorse. Not in the trial. Not in the prison interviews he gave over the years. He maintained, until the end, that what he had done was right, that he had sent his family to God, that God would judge him with mercy. Breeze Knoll, the Victorian mansion on Hillside Avenue in Westfield, New Jersey, was demolished in 1972, shortly after the murders were discovered. The house had become a place people drove past slowly, a place that felt wrong to neighbors, a place that the town of Westfield could not keep standing without something dark residing in it permanently. A new house was built on the lot. An ordinary house. Nothing like the Victorian mansion that stood there before. The lights that burned for 28 days are gone. The hymns that played through every room until the record wore out. Silent now for 50 years. But Patricia is still 16 years old, somewhere, in the particular way that the dead remain the age they were. Fred is 15. Matthew is 13. Helen is having her morning coffee. And John List is walking out the front door of Breeze Knoll into the gray November morning, getting into his car, driving away. A man who believed he had done something merciful, who believed that God would understand. 5 people believed in him. 5 people trusted him. 5 people came home through the front door of that house into the warm light and the sound of hymns. He was the last thing they ever saw. What do you think? Was John List a monster? Or a broken man who convinced himself that what he did was mercy? Leave your verdict in the comments below. Subscribe to Family Crimes for a new case every week. Because the darkest secrets hide at home.